Welcome, Annie Collins here for Brutus Monroe. Today we're going to create this lovely floral fall card. Let's go over the products I use. We have a nice variety of misting and watercolor products and embossing products. I'll go over those with you in a second. But first, let's go over our main feature, which is the Fall Florals stamp set. These are 44 pieces. You have two large florals here, sunflower and a mum, and some smaller ones, and a large variety of leaves. We're going to use most of these today. You also have a single acorn and an acorn with some leaves. Just beautiful. We're going to use some of these larger leaves on our thing, in our card. We have some wonderful sentiments like happiness blooms from within. If friends were flowers, I'd pick you, wishing you brighter days. Smile and don't stop believing. Yep, that's the one we're using today. If you're thinking of that Journey song, me too. Okay, so we're going to use our embossing ink and embossing powder in Gilded. For our leaves, I'm going to use our main 3 leaves. We're going to use a variety of the other ones with our Raven Detail ink. And for our background, we're going to use some misting. So we're going to use our Chroma mist in Lilac Purple, Candy Apple Red, and Bumblebee Yellow. We're going to create some wonderful background with that. And then to watercolor our leaves, we're going to use the 3 Chroma mist and a little bit of the Aqua Pigment and yellow green. I'm going to bring in some of that Gilded just for some splatter. So we're going to set this to the side, and I'm going to show you the cardstock papers we're going to be using. We're going to use Not Your Mama's cardstock for our card base. So that's that. I already have it scored and ready to go. Some brown cardstock, that's 80-pound weight. 80-pound weight in this pumpkin orange, which I've die cut the little strip for our sentiment. And then I have this in my stash for a long time. This is treated watercolor cardstock. It's got texture on it. It's got like a woven texture. And then of course Aqua Pigment cardstock. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to use the Chroma mist in Bumblebee Yellow, Candy Apple Red, and Lilac Purple to mist my background. I'm just going to keep spraying them until I get the color how I want it. I want it to look like gradient from that red to that yellow, basically how your leaves turn in the fall. The way I used to see them when I was a kid. I live in Florida. We don't have much for leaves changing here. They're always green or dead. That's what we get. So now I'm going to bring in my stick and stamp mat, and I keep one just for stamping and one that I keep for all my gels and mediums and such. For the one for just stamping, I'm going to put that in my stamping, in my Misty, and then I'm going to use all the little leaves that are in the stamp set to create a little cluster on the bottom of the darkest part of our panel here. So I'm just going to place them all in, arrange them how I would like them, and then I'll use our Raven Detail ink to stamp them. Now this cardstock is textured. It has like a woven thing on it. I don't know what it is. I'm assuming it's like threads or such in it, and it's treated to take lots of moisture for like misting and stuff like that. So I'm gonna have to stamp these leaves a variety of times, several times, to get that nice dark rich color that I want to show up here. See, and then the texture throws it off a bit. It's okay, just keep stamping it till you get it how you want. I apply a little more pressure. Now we're getting it. Once we have that, I can start filling in all those little open spots. I'm using my squeaky clean stamp cleaner here to clean off my stamps so that I can move them out of the way and rearrange some. Now I'm going to fill in with all the smaller stamps. And some of the there's like little dots and bubbles as well. I'll do those with just my little stamp acrylic block, just to get those where I need those. So I'm going to keep going here, filling in all my little leaves. And I try to stay on the lower part. I don't want anything on the yellowy part of it, because that's where my sentiment and my featured leaves will be. So once I have all this little area down here filled how I want it, I got a few more to go. What you don't see on screen, I don't know where I guess my camera turned off, is before this all completely dries, I do some splatter with my Gilded Aqua Pigment ink, and then I set it to the side to dry. So I'm going to set that, put all my leaves back. And now I'm going to pull out the bigger leaves that I'm going to use as our feature leaves. So I have some Aqua Pigment cardstock here, and I'm going to dust it off with some anti-static powder, because I'm going to be embossing on this cardstock. So I'm going to place that also onto my stick and stamp mat, arrange my leaves on here, and then I'm going to ink them up with our embossing ink, stamp them, and then I'll stamp them again, so I have a nice image. No, you can't see anything because it's clear sticky ink, but once I add my embossing powder on it, you will see what I'm talking about. I'm going to move my stamping platform out of the way, and here they are. I'm going to go ahead and clean up my embossing powder, and again I'm using Gilded embossing powder. So I'm going to go ahead and heat set this. Get my heat tool, I heat from front and back just to make sure that it's nice and even. It also minimizes my curling, and it heat sets everything nice and even. Okay, once that's all set, I'm going to use Aqua Pigments and my Chroma mist to color my leaves. I try to keep everything as minimal products here. So I'm gonna get my Aqua Pigment mat, my Aqua Pigment palette, I should call it, and I'm going to put a little bit of Bumblebee yellow, yellow green Aqua Pigment, Bumblebee yellow and Chroma mist in candy apple, and in lilac purple. I only need a little drop of each, and then I'm going to bring in a detail paintbrush and water, clean water. I start by painting my embossed leaves with the clean water, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the Chroma mist to the leaves. I start off with the lilac purple, and then I move on to candy apple red for the large one. For this one, I start out with the Bumblebee yellow, then I add a little bit of the candy apple red. With each leaf, I paint them first with water. And now for this one, I go ahead and add the Bumblebee yellow, and then I bring in the yellow green Aqua Pigment. I go back, and if I see it needs a little bit more, I just add a little bit more. Now I will fussy cut these. I'm going to save you the time of watching me fussy cut these out. I'll fussy cut these. They are coordinating dies, but I do not have them, but they are available for purchase. So now that little strip that I die cut, that's where we're going to stamp our sentiment. I'm going to center that. It says, "Don't Stop Believing." I'm going to put that right in the center. I'm going to use my Raven Detail ink to stamp this. I'll stamp it more than once because I want it nice and dark, because those leaves are nice and dark, so I want my sentiment to stand out as well. Once I have that, I'll remove my stamping platform with my sticky mat and set it to the side. So now it's time to build our card. Here are all of our components. So we have our detail leaves, our sentiment, and all the pieces. So I'm going to use some tear tape on the back of our front panel. That's the one that has all the leaves on it, with the Chroma mist as the background. And I'm also going to use some Barely Art glue. I'm going to use a combination because this is a canvas cardstock, so it's a little thicker and it's warped a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to my orange cardstock. Now I'm going to use some Barely Art glue on the orange cardstock and adhere that to our brown. Now we have our full front panel. We're going to adhere our full front panel to our card base. And our card base is made from Not Your Mama's cardstock, so it is a nice and heavy weight. So here are our feature leaves, and I have some foam adhesive behind each of those. I'm going to add some foam adhesive behind our sentiment. I'm going to center it lower here, just amongst the leaves. Once I have that, I will now adhere our embossed leaves. At first I thought I was going to put that one there and move it across, but I figured that's the bigger one and it's got the darker color. So I'm going to move that to the center and place the other two next to them. So I fix my I moved over my main one, and I'm fixing the little stems of the leaves. I'm putting a little barely art glue because I want them to adhere onto the sentiment. Then I'm going to add this last yellow one here, and I'm going to put that to the right of it, the yellow orangey one. Once the leaves are set, I'm going to bring in some sequins in fall colors, the orange, greens, and maroons, and some gold. So as you can see, my ink splatter has been done. Like I said, for some reason, that's the only thing you missed. I guess my camera turned off and I didn't realize it. But the ink splatter is done with Aqua Pigment and Gilded, and I just put some gold splatter all the way around, just for extra interest. So once I adhere these last few sequins, we should be close to done. And I just kind of mix them in throughout the leaves on the bottom panel and a few on the top. And there, our card is finished. So you have the beautiful gilded leaves on the top and some gilded colors on the bottom. So let's go over the products we used. We used the Fall Florals, Aqua Pigment in Yellow Green and Gilded, Chroma Mist in Red Apple, in Lilac Purple, and Bumblebee Yellow. We used our embossing ink in Gilded Embossing Powder and our Raven ink. I know I rattled off a lot of things. I'll make sure to have everything linked in the description box below.